your guide to the truth. TheNewAmericanMedia.com.
Broadcasting to you live from the Milky Way galaxy, the solar system, planet Earth, North America, the United States of America, California, Los Angeles, to be specific. Hello, everybody, and welcome to Agree to Disagree here on the TNAM radio network, because the news always matters. Welcome, hello, howdy, what's up? I'm your host, Brian Engelman, as I have been for the past 3.5 years. Thank you so much for doing all the things you're doing, following us, liking us, subscribing to us, commenting with us, all that jazz, telling your friends. Certainly appreciate each and every one of you out there. Been hitting a lot of milestones lately with subscribers and video views, and it's just a really good time to stop and say thank you, everybody. So thank you very much, and if you haven't had the chance yet to go to our homepage, please do so. It's thenewamericanmedia.com. And then on the middle right of the page, you'll see the TNAM radio link. That's where you listen live when we launch our show. And when do we launch our shows? Well, we usually launch on Fridays at 4 p.m. Pacific and 5 p.m. Pacific. We'll try to do a sports show at 4, and then we'll do an Agree to Disagree political / economic / religious / basically anything goes. Anything you're not supposed to talk about with somebody inside of a bar. That's what we do on Agree to Disagree, and that's usually on Friday. However, we're doing a lot more shows as of late, and we're going to be doing them on random days at random times. So we just wrapped up our NBA season preview show with former NBA scout and current NBA analyst and consultant Zach Barris. That one's going to get posted very shortly. Coming up next, we're going to be doing a Cleveland Browns show, because the Browns just had a victory yesterday against the Jokeland Raiders. Hey, I'll take it, whatever. I know they were winless, but still, we lost to the Jaguars last week, but we're sitting at 4-3, right in the playoff hunt, waiting to get Josh Gordon back. Brian Hoyer did enough to get the win. You know, we're battling injuries, so, you know, what can you complain about when you're sitting at 4-3? Check that show out. It's all going to be online. So on the middle right of the homepage, thenewamericanmedia.com, underneath is our Twitter feed. We're at American_media_. So please make sure that you follow us on Twitter. Then underneath that on the homepage is our Facebook feed, or you could search for The New American Media with spaces in between, then like the page. Because we're going to send alerts out every time we do these random guerrilla-style shows. We're going to send an alert out and be like, hey, you got 5 minutes. We're launching a show. We're going to be talking. We're going to have a lot of cool guests coming up. So definitely make sure that you're a part of us, a part of our social media network on Twitter, Facebook, and then make sure you subscribe. YouTube.com/TheNewAmericanMedia. So, I want to talk to you a little bit right now about digital currency. I don't have a lot of faith in the Federal Reserve. I don't have a lot of faith in those clowns in Washington. If you can't see, and you can't because it's radio, I'm shaking my fist in the general direction of the sky. Those clowns in Washington. Nothing ever changes. Don't trust your elected officials to get currency right. I mean, really, since the Creature from Jekyll Island happened, our money's been losing value like crazy. And that's why I think families can't have somebody at home raising kids and tending to the household chores and details while somebody goes out and earns a living. Now they got us working nonstop, burning our candle at both ends, still can't make ends meet, can't afford to buy anything, college is going through the roof. Why? It's because the value of money is going down. They're doing it intentionally. They are monetizing trillions of dollars, poof, out of the clear blue sky, and it affects you. So what has popped up is something called digital currency. You may be familiar with Bitcoin. You may have seen Max Kaiser with his Max Coin. You may have, there's Tatiana Moroz, one of our musicians who we interviewed at the United We Stand Festival a couple months ago. Musician, she's doing Tatiana Coin. And it really is kind of a way for libertarians to think of new ways to exchange goods and services without having some middleman private banking corporation getting their cut like the mafia before we even see our money. So I wanted to bring in somebody today that could maybe help us understand what is a Bitcoin. How is a Bitcoin created? What protections are there so that Bitcoins aren't stolen? Is this all just a government psyop so that we all opt out of digital or out of paper money and coin money, and then everything's digitized? Is this going to lead to barcodes and tattoos that have become the mark of the beast from Revelation with 666, and you can't buy or sell any goods or services unless you're scanned or coded or you have a RFID chip implanted in your skin? We're headed toward these interesting times, and we got a lot of questions. So today I'm bringing in Kevin Ostrowski. He is the founder and CEO of AltCoinGraphs. You can check them out on Twitter. It's AltCoinGraphs, and then the homepage would be AltCoinGraphs.com. Kevin, welcome to the program, sir. How you doing today?
Doing good. Thanks for having me.
Hey, thanks for being here. First, let's talk about AltCoinGraphs. Give me the brief elevator pitch on why did you do this? What is it? Why is it unlike the other stuff you're going to see out there? And then I want to kind of like hit the backward button and kind of figure out where you're coming from that led you down this path.
Sure. So I started AltCoinGraphs back in, it was late February of this year. And it started because I got interested in Bitcoin and cryptocurrency myself. I kind of been hearing about it for, a year or so, but never really kind of dove into it. I finally started looking into it. And then within a week, I was, putting my software engineering skills to use. And there were really no kind of graphing or analytics tools out there for anything other than Bitcoin. There were a few sites here and there, but what was lacking was one central place to kind of go and see all the various different crypto exchanges all in one place. So I kind of took it on my own in my own time, and just with back and forth on some IRC channels, put together a quick version. And from there, it just kind of blossomed. People started using it. It really started picking up steam. And what it's become now is a complete trading platform. So you can interface with all the various top exchanges right now. And we're not an exchange ourselves, but we're kind of the in-between. So you have one interface and one place to kind of go and look at your current portfolio to trade directly on all the exchanges, as well as more advanced features like automating your trading and doing kind of algorithmic trading, which is a really advanced way to let a bunch of if statements essentially do the trading for you.
The if statements, that's if it hits 25, I then want to buy 500 shares. If
it's
it
a lot
drops.
more advanced than that. There's a lot of technical indicators. It mirrors a lot of the traditional stock and forex type of trading, but with cryptocurrency, it's a little different. A lot more is in the order books, in the way people will kind of wall things off and remove walls. And there's a lot of little things that you do in crypto that you don't do in the stock market. But essentially, if you go and you check it out and you're familiar with stocks, you'd feel right at home. And it's just a central place, so you don't have to manage all these different accounts from all over the place and have 20 browser windows open. It'll send you email alerts when trades happen from all the different exchanges and let you really get advanced with the automation stuff.
Yeah, and everything being so integrated onto our amazingly powerful smartphones these days. I mean, you just have the information on your phone and you're making trades and doing stuff. I mean, long gone are the days of needing a desk and a landline to make things happen. I mean, that feels so antiquated, even to look at a fax machine or hear the noise or hear a dial-up modem. You're like, oh man, did those ever exist? Yeah, I mean, we're flying past that stuff. But talk about flying. Go ahead.
I was making trades while I was flying a couple weeks ago. So
Well, literally flying past.
I was
Okay.
literally 30,000 feet in the air, and I was trading altcoins. So it's a whole different world these days.
Wow, very cool. Now, we definitely have a trillion questions to coin Ben Bernanke and Janet Yellen's favorite word, trillion. They throw those around like it's not even real. And honestly, when you start looking at the U.S. government and being about 17 trillion in debt and the unfunded liabilities, everybody's just guessing at the unfunded liabilities somewhere between 86 trillion and 150 trillion. There's just no money in the world to pay for how screwed up this all is. And there's a lot of people like myself that feels like the other shoe's about to drop. What we witnessed in 2007, 2008 was a dress rehearsal, and it's going to get really bad headed forward. And a lot of people have then therefore started looking, okay, so what do I do? Do I get some gold? Do I get some silver? Do I get beans, bullets, and Band-Aids? Do I invest in gold, God, and guns? What's going to happen now, man? I just got to have my stuff. And it really just people are looking at the dollar, the U.S. Federal Reserve note, almost like a fax machine as an antiquated, why am I using this? I don't need to use this. This makes them rich. I don't want to make them rich. But before we get into all these details, because there's so many paths we can go down, so many Silk Roads we could walk down. I to toss that out there.
Words.
Yes. And I would like you to explain as much of the Silk Road as you feel like doing. But I first just want to kind of get your background. When did you get in? Take us through your path, how you ended up here. because you've been working up in Silicon Valley doing computery things. But like so many of us with buddies in the industry, I mean, we know that they work in front of a computer, but don't really know what they do. So, where are you coming from professionally that kind of gave you the skill set where this thing just made sense today?
Sure. So, I've been doing software development for about 15 years professionally now. And I actually took a really strange path. I came from, when I was younger, I was a musician and an artist. I moved out to the San Francisco area to go to art school. I play around on the computer and whatnot, but it was more art centric. I landed a job at a company called Signatures Network, which was a music licensing and merchandising company. And from there, I ended up developing a fan club system for a bunch of top celebrities. So we ran Kiss Online, Madonna's official site, Britney Spears' official site, Jessica Simpson, Fleetwood Mac, Rod Stewart. It's a really long list. But it was all their official sites and fan clubs. So at that time, I was more a production developer. So I would be copying and pasting HTML code and whatnot. And then the company went through a huge layoff. They laid off 30% of the company, and I was left as the only developer in the entire company. From there, I took it on my own to go learn dynamic programming. So I got into PHP and MySQL and databases and built this full fan club system that ended up scaling out to all these different celebrities and earned Signatures millions and millions in fan club sales, which essentially they were just selling access to the site. And when you got access to the site, then you got access to tickets. So that kind of got my feet wet.
Okay. So that was almost like the conduit to the tickets, and therefore the interface, that was the portal to get into their world. So there's money to be made in building the portals that get you to those advanced tickets and all their extras and goodies and meet and greet things.
Exactly. We did U2.com, for example, and the only way to get pre-sale tickets was to join the fan club. So at $50 a pop to get into the fan club, a few 100,000 people join the fan club. That earns them quite a bit of money. So that got my feet wet with it really got me diving into technology and the more kind of development and back end type of the equations. And then from there, I actually moved over to a podcasting company called Pod Show, which was founded by Adam Curry, the quote unquote Podfather. And I worked there for a few years and built their infrastructure, built out their architecture, led their development team overseas and in-house, and then really kind of brought me to a whole new level of managing software from the ground up, managing a team of people, and it really got me into even more deeper into the back end kind of things, the more the heavy lifting tasks as opposed to the front end artistic type of user interface tasks. And from there, I just would move from company to company over the years, and every time I'd find myself going deeper and deeper into the stack, doing more sysadmin stuff, spending more time in the terminal than I'm spending looking at a website. And just over the years, I've been mostly self-taught, but really taking trial by fire and learning it the hard way. But I think that's the best way to learn, is to really get involved in it and really just dive into it.
Yeah, I can understand that. I mean, 3.5 years ago, me and a couple of my buddies, I came back from this excursion out in New Mexico. I was building these off-the-grid homes, and I had this bit of an epiphany after spending a month and a half out there. And I just came back, and I talked with my buddy and my other friend, and I said, I need to do a website. I need to do a radio show, and I'm doing it. And you just get started. That's the only. You can read theoretical books on how to do it. You can watch some sort of reality program about somebody doing something you want to do. But the only way you get the skill is just jump in. And then you blink, and 3.5 years have passed, and you go, oh, okay, well, I guess that's the road I ended up on. Go figure. But yeah, I mean, you jump in and you get it going. So how do you go from U2 and Kiss and Madonna
exactly
to cryptocurrency?
So as I was saying, over the years I dove deeper and deeper, and I've always kind of had this little interest in the stock market and financials, but it was never really my solid background. It was never my understanding was to get into the stock market, you really had to have a large bit of capital to put up and start investing. And other paths in my life, I had children. I never had that amount of capital to put up. So I never really dove into it too much. And then, 2011, 2012, I started hearing about Bitcoin, heard about it, didn't really research it. But then one day last January, I just spent a day and started researching it. And the more I researched it, I just saw this huge, huge potential. Just saw this massive billion-dollar industry that was in its infancy, and it was lacking some of the most basic of basic tools that a financial industry should have. So I looked at that, and just a giant light bulb went off over my head. And it part of what Bitcoin is too is the culture behind it, the communities. So it's not your typical kind of financial. You still have the Wall Streets and the big banking types of people that are invested in it, but you have a whole slew of people that are everyone from college kids to gamers to hobbyists. So it's just this whole culture behind it. And I really got kind of, immersed in that whole experience. And it just, so many light bulbs just kept going off of, the future of Bitcoin, the future of cryptocurrency in general just made sense to me. Just everything clicked, and it just, I couldn't go fast enough. So a few months ago, I left my job and started pursuing this full time, mostly because I wanted to take the initiative. Right now is the opportunity. A year from now, it's going to be a completely different landscape. A year ago would have been a better time, but I hadn't quite got into it. But the way I look at it is, last year was the baby infancy stage of Bitcoin. Right now, we're kind of in the toddler stage, and it's really one of the last chances to get in on something ground floor, and I just couldn't. I couldn't pass that up. So
when was the zygote / embryonic stage?
I'd have to say that, that's back when it was around $1 or $2. That's when, people just did it because it was something cool to do. And it was literally the only people involved at that point were tech geeks. And, I wish I would have gotten into it then. I heard about it then. I just didn't, it didn't pursue any interest, and I didn't even bother to go look it up. It was just a thing I heard about.
Yeah, we've had some listeners here at the New American Media have been telling me for years to get involved in this. I'm like, well, then set me up an account. Go ahead, throw some in.
If you were mining Bitcoin a couple years ago, you're in a pretty good spot right now.
Yeah, and you talk about the different culture. It's obviously not a Wall Street type group of people that are involved in this. It's more your gamers, and especially here at the New American Media, you find the renegades, you find the liberty culture. Because this is a protest vote to opt out of a completely corrupt system that keeps funding a completely corrupt political system in a lot of people's opinions, where they don't see a difference between Republicans and Democrats. They see it as one big party, two wings of the same dirty bird. Well, why have they gained control? Because of money. Who controls the money? The Federal Reserve, the private bank entities that own the Federal Reserve and buy the politicians that they want to enact the policies that they want to get through. We all see it as a scam, and at least here on the New American Media, and the people that are following alternative media, trying to find real truth and real stories, and we don't want the propaganda from the main, the Fox, the MSNBC, pick your lousy channel of the day. This really is a protest vote of, I want to gain control over my finances. I think your whole system is a house of cards that's going to collapse. So I guess talk to the average person that is familiar with some of these concepts, but they're not familiar with stock markets, and they're not really sure how your site works here at AltCoinGraphs.com. How does somebody even get started?
Well, that's a really good question, and the easiest way to get started these days is to go to a site like Coinbase, which is an online kind of a way to purchase Bitcoins using U.S. dollars. They're one of the most respectable companies out there. They're funded by venture capitalists. They're based in Silicon Valley. They have all the proper filings with SEC, I believe, and they're really a secure kind of trustworthy place. And it's really easy. You go on there, and you have to verify your identity. You have to talk to your bank account, and you have to wait a couple days. But you purchase your Bitcoins, and then once you have them, Bitcoins can be freely moved around to a wallet on your computer, to another wallet online. You can put it onto an exchange. But the easiest way these days for sure to get Bitcoin is to purchase it. The average user isn't going to be able to get the hardware necessary to mine it. Bitcoin mining is a way of using your computer resources essentially to do some cryptography, and you're essentially solving equations, and you're identifying a block, and you're claiming those bitcoins. So that's how bitcoins are released into circulation.
So why can't the average person do that? Because their computers aren't strong enough or fast enough?
Exactly. So when it first started, it can be done by pretty much anybody on a laptop, on a PC. But the more people that are trying to mine it, the harder the difficulty is. So the more difficult it is, the more CPU power. So essentially what you have now is you have full data center type cloud setups that are, networking giant pieces of hardware together to give them this incredibly high hash rate so they can just crunch through all these numbers really fast and claim their stake of the bitcoins. And the average user is not going to have the $1 million it takes to go build a data center like that. There are services out there that you can go rent mining hardware and mining some of the more altcoins, which I'll talk a little bit more about the altcoins because that's a whole different breed of bitcoins essentially. But there's a whole system out there. You can go rent mining rigs and you can mine it that way. But for the average user, the safest and easiest way to invest is to purchase them. The thing about Bitcoin that makes a lot of people uneasy is the volatility. Bitcoin price goes up, it goes down. It's great for traders and people that understand how the markets work because they can capitalize off of that. But an average user, they invest, let's say $1,000. That $1,000 might be worth, $1,200 tomorrow, but $800 the day after. So the fluctuation can go up and down pretty rapidly.
Not for the faint of heart, you mean?
It's not for the faint of heart, but with the way I look at it is it's a mid to long term kind of investment. If you're an average user, it's a good place to store your security. So what you see is a lot of countries that have really bad financial situations or really corrupt governments and banking. You'll find a lot of those countries will invest in Bitcoin because it's a much safer way to store their assets. The volatility might go up and down, but they don't run the risk of having their bank accounts seized and whatnot. So
that's what Cayman Islands, and that's what some of these places like the Cayman Islands. It's known as these offshore banking dungeons where you can throw all your drug money in, and you avoid the long arm of the law, and in a way that's kind of why the powers that be don't want people getting involved in Bitcoin, because they don't have the control over it that they do by monetizing
launder
trillions.
Money through Bitcoin, absolutely, but it's it's a currency essentially. It's like any other currency. Any kind of illegal activity is going to happen before there's currency, after there's currency, with U.S. dollars, with Bitcoin. It's irrelevant, really. The black markets are going to exist. It's all going to still be there. I think people are afraid, especially the government, not because of the money laundering, but they can't control it, right? So they can regulate it. They can put fees on the companies that deal with Bitcoins, but the actual protocol itself is completely open source and is completely peer-to-peer. So they can control Bitcoin as much as the RIA controlled Napster and file sharing. And, maybe they could shut down Napster, but they could not shut down file sharing because they would have to shut down the internet. So Bitcoin is essentially the same type of thing. And it does strike fear into governments. But at the same time, I think the government's finally starting to wise up and starting to see that, you're not going to be able to fight it. So we might as well try to take a piece of it. And right. I think that's what's starting to happen now. The SEC is really getting involved now. I think in the next coming months, over the next year, I think 2015 will be the year of regulations for Bitcoins and cryptocurrencies. And that's scary in one hand, but it's also reassuring on the other. Because one of the things that's kind of plagued the whole crypto community for the last, since I've been involved, and probably way before then, is any place that you have no regulation, a lot of money being thrown around, and a lot of decisions being made off of hype, you're going to have a lot of scammers. So
it's the Wild West. It's the online version of the Wild West.
It's the best way to put it. It is the Wild West, right? So you can strike it rich or you can lose everything. But So there's been a lot of shady people out there that have given it a bad taste, and but that's part of the growing pains. So a little bit of regulation, I think, will make the general population feel a little more secure and a little safer. Um, Too much regulation, and we're just essentially, have a digital version of what we're currently dealing with, right?
Yeah, and I think that's the last thing that people involved in this want. They're looking for an alternative, something different. And like you said, it's not that you can shut down Napster for doing illegal things, but you can't shut down file sharing because you're not shutting down the internet.
Yeah,
There are
exactly.
plenty of applications where this makes sense because the technology is neither good nor bad. It's inanimate. And I've made this case a few times. It's like a gun or like a vehicle. They are both inanimate objects. They are neither good nor bad. In the hands of most people that have some level of competency and common sense, they can operate both of them, and there will be no problems ever. Anybody operating things recklessly or with the intent to harm somebody else, yes, you can hop up on the sidewalk and kill 20 people on your car. You could go into a library and kill 15 people, and you can launder money and fund guerrilla groups in northern Africa.
Exactly.
You can do anything you want with it, but it is neither good nor bad. But, as I kind of discussed a little bit earlier, there are a lot of people, myself included, who have read George Orwell's 1984, who have listened to sermons and read Revelation, and this whole mark of the beast, you can't buy or sell without... When I see digital currency coming along, I just can't get the image out of my head away where I have to press my thumbprint in to get my money, or I need a barcode tattoo, or there's going to be something where I swipe my forearm across a pad, and it starts getting into that weird area. Do you think that traditional money, the paper and the coins, it seems like they want to phase it out? Do you think it ever could be phased out? And if so, do you think that natural leap, that is a natural progression toward what they've talked about in 1984 and Revelation, where it's just like it gets beyond, I guess, creepy. It just gets creepy to a lot of people, potentially.
Well, it can, and if Bitcoin and blockchain technology gets regulated by the government and controlled by the government, that absolutely could happen. As it is now, every transaction that happens in Bitcoin is completely public. Anybody can go. You can go watch every transaction fly by.
Really?
You don't know who's making that transaction, but you know the address it was sent to and from, and you know how much was transferred.
So if there was a George Soros that wanted to intentionally tank an economy like he did in England and like he's trying to do over here in America, you don't know that that's his bank account, but when you see huge sell-offs at a certain time, you can smell a rat.
Large amounts of Bitcoin moving across the blockchain, there's a really good chance that there's going to be a big price movement. Essentially, something's happening. When you see 1,000+ Bitcoins get transferred from here to there, that's a lot of money, right? There's something's going on. It's not average Joe just moving some funds over to his other wallet. So things like that, definitely there's full on sites out there that track things like that. So it's monitored by essentially the whole world, and anybody can go not only look at every transaction, but anybody can go look and read the entire code base for Bitcoin or any of these coins. They're all open source. So that's one thing that the government
define open source though.
Open source means that the software is freely available.
Okay.
Every line of code is online, can be downloaded, can be modified. You could even suggest changes and commit them back. But what makes that work is it's community policed essentially. And in order for any change that gets put in there to be effective, everybody on the network needs to have those modified changes, right? So I could go take the Bitcoin code base and I could code in all kinds of malicious stuff that says send everybody's coins here, and but I submit those changes, they're going to get rejected. nobody's going to download. They're immediately going to get caught, and it's going to get flagged, and it's just not going to go anywhere.
And it wouldn't work because the other peer-to-peer, the other person wouldn't have that code anyway.
Right. So my version of my Bitcoin wallet would be different than your version, and it's not going to communicate.
Not compatible. Okay. So, and as we're communicating, you've mentioned this wallet term. I mean, we're all familiar with what a wallet is, obviously, but how does because I'm here on this Coinbase.com, and it just says your Bitcoin wallet. It says your email, choose a password, create Bitcoin wallet. Okay, I get the concept. That's where you put your money, but it's not like you can ever go to the bank or print. Can you get a hard copy of Bitcoins or cryptocurrency?
You can. So a wallet is essentially, it's a program you download, and what that does is it has a private key associated to it that is only available to you. You should never share that key. That's how it ties your Bitcoins to your wallet. So essentially, even if your wallet's offline, if people transfer your Bitcoins, it's all on the blockchain. So what that wallet does is it essentially plays back the blockchain is basically a public ledger. So
Thank you. I was just getting ready to say, define that.
Yeah. So the technology of all cryptocurrency is based off of this blockchain. So it's a public ledger, and every transaction that goes through there gets stored, and it gets sent out to every peer that's running Bitcoin. So every exchange, every site, every wallet that can communicate with the Bitcoin protocol reads the exact same information. And the way you say that, okay, these coins were actually transferred and it's not somebody just manipulating the system is, as your transaction happens, it gets sent to another peer, and that peer confirms that transaction is actually legitimate. And that happens across, hundreds of networks. And essentially, the best way to say that this is a secure transaction and this is totally valid is when you reach a certain number of confirmations. Some sites and wallets will take one confirmation as it'll be spendable, but essentially, once you've reached 6 confirmations, it's guaranteed that your money has been transferred and everything is safe. So this public ledger gets pushed out across everybody that's running Bitcoin. So anybody can take a look at it. Everybody gets updated. And what the wallet is essentially your coins are on your computer. They're not in a bank. They're not online. They're on your computer. If you lose your hard drive, you lose your money, which is one of the risks.
Oh, really? You can't back that up somehow?
Oh, absolutely. You can. But if you don't back it up, but essentially you hold the hard copy, right? So it's not like I go put my money in a Wells Fargo. And Wells Fargo goes and they decide to shift my equity here so that they can gain interest and move money here. And, essentially I'm the money I'm pulling out may or may not have been my money that I put in.
Well, and with their fractional reserve banking, you give $100 to a Wells Fargo or a Bank of America or a Chase, and if you give them $100, they can loan out 10 times, so that they're loaning out $1,000. They only have to keep 1/10. And there's a lot of cases now where you go to the bank, and if you're trying to get $5,000, if you're trying to get $10,000 or $15,000, say you're buying a car, say you somebody kidnapped your kid. Okay, not the kidnap. Well, that's a little ridiculous. But let's just say you're going to make a big purchase or something. A lot of people are reporting they can't even get their money. The banks refuse to allow the person to get their money. A, because either they don't have it, and it's already loaned out everywhere else. They just, good luck. If everybody made a run on the bank, it would collapse. That's what happened in the Great Depression. So either they don't have it, or we've heard stories where people are being denied access, being given 50 questions to get their own property back. Some bank officials have claimed, well, we're worried that you might be under duress and someone might be trying to extort money from you, and to protect you, we're not going to allow you to, which is kind of a load of crap. I kind of get where they're coming from with that, but there are people, long story short, that are having a hard time getting their own money out of their own banks anyway.
Exactly.
And does the FDIC really even cover all your stuff?
No, what is it? 200,000 they cover, I think.
Yeah, but then now I'm hearing, depending on how big their branch is, they can max out at a certain point, and that you don't even have first dibs on your money if something did happen. So, we think of everything here from a solar flare shuts down the grid. I mean, how do you spend a Bitcoin? Let me ask you something ridiculous after that whole long lead up. I'm just going to go this direction now. Whatever. What do you do if the grid goes down? Let's just say Mad Max scenario. like you can't trade silver coins or paper dollars anymore. It's all digital, and it all disappears if China wages a cyber attack or something.
I mean, that's obviously a risk, right? You base your currency on technology. You lose all technology, you lose your currencies. But, what would happen right now if that were to happen? Do you think, you'd have your cash you had in your wallet, but you're not getting anything out of your bank. So it's really not that different, right? I mean, you think, they're going to go pull the gold out of Fort Knox if it's still there.
If there ever was any, and if there's
still there.
Yeah.
But I mean, they're not going to pull that out and start, slicing that up and delivering it to banks to give to their customers. No, if we lose the grid, regardless if we're running on credit cards or Bitcoin, we're screwed.
Yeah,
So,
it would be mayhem either way.
I mean, then it's a good time if you had some gold stocked up. You're in a good place. But with Bitcoin, if there's a giant EMP pulse and it knocks out, wipes your hard drives, yes, you would lose all that. But what you can do, and you can print paper wallets, so you can transfer. It's basically a QR code. So you can print that QR code.
And the QR code is the scannable thing. It's
so
that square box with like it almost looks like if you stare long at it enough, you'll see a sailboat.
Exactly. It looks like one of those magic eye.
Yes.
But what that is a QR code is nothing more than an advanced barcode. So, but you can store, all your it's basically your hash and your private keys, and it can all be stored in this QR code that you can go take, and you can go stick that in a safety deposit box, and it's going to be fine. Now, granted, you would have to scan that back into a wallet to technically spend it, but you could also trade that piece of paper if you really wanted to, right? I mean, it'd just be a whole different way of bartering, I guess, if we lost the grid. But there definitely would still be Bitcoins that remain once the grid came back up. A lot of them would be destroyed, but just like there would still be cash that would remain if the grid went down now. But a lot of these days, cash really is nothing more than a number in a bank database. So all that would be lost.
That's a fantastic point, though. I want to get to paper wallets. Pause on that, and I'll make sure we get back to paper wallets, because I know that's what I would do. Whatever, it's on a hard drive. But look, I'm printing it too. Look, I got this in my hand. I'm going to put it in a safe deposit box, or I'm going to put it in a fireproof something. I'm keeping a backup copy of this. But you raise a very interesting point there. Because like I was saying, you go to the bank and they don't even have your money. Whether they want to allow you to get your money back or they've loaned it out and don't have it. The point is, most of our money is digitized anyway. It's not floating around in a solid form. It's all theoretical. It's all phony baloney monopoly money at this point. It's all just theoretical. Good luck getting it in the grid down. Good luck getting it if there's a run on the banks. Good luck getting it if Wall Street or China hasn't plundered it first. Like if there's really a crisis, it's not like you're going to be able to get it from the bank either. It really it physically does not exist, kind of like a Bitcoin not really existing.
Exactly. And even at that, to run the Bitcoin network, if everything went down, little sub networks could still pop up once, because it doesn't, if everything gets destroyed, everything, we have the technology to kind of rebuild it. It would take some time.
Was that the Bionic Man? We have the technology to rebuild it. Is that what that was? Or $5 million man or something like that?
The $6 million man.
There we go. Well, with inflation. Okay, right.
Yeah, these days it's the $6 trillion.
Yeah, exactly. Thanks, Janet Yellen.
Yeah, and he's got stealth technology and cruise missiles built in.
Of course.
But it really would be no difference at that point if you printed out your paper wallets and stuck them under your mattress, or you line the inside of your mattress with $100 bills.
Yeah, well, in the Great Depression, and when the economy collapsed in the Weimar Republic in Germany prior to World War II, you look at what happened, and I think in the Revolutionary days it was a cartload of Continentals. The Continentals were the paper, worthless currency printed by the fledgling colonies without anything to back it up. The phrase went something along the lines of, a cartload of Continentals can scarcely purchase a cartload of provisions. You wheel in a whole barrel of money to get a loaf of bread. You've seen it in Russia. You've seen some of these African nations with I think Zimbabwe with the $1 trillion bill, and everybody has them. They use them as like paperweights. It's just, here, look at what $1 trillion looks like. You can totally destroy your money if you want, and that's the thing. If you look at monopoly, look in the rule book. It says the bank can never go bankrupt. It can only print more money. And that's exactly what we're talking about.
That's what our entire kind of economy is built on these days, right? Printing more money.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's why so many people are saying, I just don't trust this system. Something seems off. Something seems insane about this. And I don't want to be left holding the bag. This just doesn't... My spidey senses are tingling. I might not be able to clearly articulate exactly what is wrong, but something's wrong and I want out. And so that's why alternative currencies, and that's why Bitcoin, that's why cryptocurrencies have started expanding. We're talking with Kevin Ostrowski, founder and CEO of AltCoinGraphs. Make sure you follow him on Twitter. He's at AltCoinGraphs. And you can check out the homepage, AltCoinGraphs.com. I want to get into some of the hardcore details of what AltCoinGraphs.com does. Kind of walk us through. I'll pull up the page and kind of explain to the new listeners either we can talk in two different languages, to the pros who understand all the bells and whistles and all the features that you have, and also talk to the people that, the liberty-minded, the renegades that are just wanting to have a protest vote. Walk us through how we would get started. But can you talk a little bit about the Silk Road? Because there is a history with some cryptocurrency and with governments, and I think Silk Road's an important mile marker along the way to at least pause and take notice of.
Absolutely. So for those that know, the Silk Road was essentially an open bazaar where anything could be traded for anything for Bitcoin, right? So, you could buy a fruitcake or you could buy a rocket launcher. I mean, it's completely wide open, completely, anything goes. Which is good and bad. Obviously there was a lot of drug trade that was happening on there. A lot of really dark kind of shady things going on the Silk Road. Eventually it got shut down. The guy that ran it got arrested. His Bitcoins were seized, which part of them were actually sold recently. 30,000 of them were sold by the U.S. Marshal's Office at an auction, bought by one person. It was valued about at the time that 30,000 was valued at $17 million. So, obviously, the U.S. Marshal Service made a little bit of money off that one.
And bought by one person, but we don't know who bought it.
We do know who bought it. It was a guy named Tim Draper.
Oh, okay.
We don't know how much he paid. That's the unknown, and it might be out there. I couldn't find any information on how much, and I'm in a lot of the IRC rooms, and I've never seen anybody say, I've seen guesses, but I've never seen the exact amount he paid. But he bought $17 million of Bitcoin for an undisclosed amount of money. So he's a really big player now in the Bitcoin space. But Silk Road, it did a lot of bad for Bitcoin. It kind of tarnished the name for a little bit. But what it led to was a lot more policing. People had to kind of step up and had to be more professional. They had to be more open. So it really kind of cleared the space of some of the kind of dirt, and really led the way for actual businesses to start coming into the industry. And it that fallout, I think, in the end, has done more good for Bitcoin than it's done bad.
You think more good than bad? Let me ask you about that. But if it's done more good than bad, it almost kind of sounds like if you have protests, whether it's Tea Party or whether it's Occupy Wall Street or whether it's go across the globe, you hear these stories about governments will send in agent provocateurs to kind of rile up and incite violence so that there can be a clampdown to shut it down. Because if everybody's there peacefully doing nothing, that gets on TV, that gets on Twitter, that gets on Facebook. People see it and go, man, I believe in that too, and that movement grows. But if you can hire some goons to, set a few things on fire, throw some bottles and cans and rocks, break a few windows, then you can stomp down with the military industrial complex to just totally shut down cities. And when you have something like Silk Road getting shut down, you have to wonder what role government played in setting them up to take them down, to give them the bad publicity, to scare people away from it. But I want you to expand on that. Why do you think more good came from it than bad, the Silk Road debacle?
Simply because it was so bad that it caused the whole industry to kind of tighten up. So it kind of made people be more open. It made people have to be more trustworthy. It freed up a big space for true businesses to come in true kind of merchants to come in, and honestly it was a great PR campaign. I mean, a lot of people found out about Bitcoin because of Silk Road. The old saying, like, any publicity is good publicity, right?
Yeah.
But
there's no such thing as bad publicity.
yeah. So it really opened people's eyes. It got people interested. Like, what is Bitcoin? Like, how much was seized that's worth that much money? And it just kind of caused more self-policing of the industry. And I think as it's part of the growing pains. Any industry that can be exploited is going to be exploited. And I don't think that's going to be the last we hear of illegal activities happening with Bitcoin. I mean, there's already a Silk Road 2.0. There's an open source project out there called Open Bazaar, which is it's completely open. The project itself is open source, and once it's live, not even the creators will be able to shut it down.
Frankenstein.
So it's free trade is going to happen. And when there's free trade, right? I mean, I could go walk into a liquor store and I could, buy a bag of chips. I could walk in the liquor store and I could buy a 40 ounce. I could go walk behind the liquor store in the alley and buy crack, right? So, I mean, if you can do, whatever you can do online or whatever you can do in the real world, it's getting to the point where you're going to be able to do it online. And, there should be, policing, and it needs to be regulated, and, it needs to be shut down when it's found. But the honest picture of the future is it's going to happen. It's going to happen whether the U.S. regulates it or China regulates it. Unless it's completely 100% controlled by a government source, people are going to be free to use the technology to do whatever they feel like. Whether we decide it's good or we decide it's bad, it's going to happen. So there needs to be kind of safeguards put in place, I think, to make sure it doesn't get out of hand. But I don't see how it stopped, right? The same way that you could still go download a movie that's in the theaters right now if you really wanted to online. You could still go download, the newest album from any given band. It's unstoppable. So I think the best way is to embrace it and to use it for as much good, if not more good, than the bad.
Yeah, when you were working with all those bands, was that around the same time when you were doing all their fan sites and whatnot? I'm not sure what year, what time frame we're talking, but was this around the Napster time where they were just trying to?
This was between 2000 and 2000. I worked at the company from 1999 to 2005. So when I was really in the midst of it, it was early 2000s.
And they were just trying to shut this Napster stuff down.
Yeah.
Way before iTunes made sense. Way before, and they finally adopted the technology.
iTunes wouldn't be iTunes without Napster. So when you look at what is iTunes, iTunes is a Napster you pay for. iTunes is a Napster that pays the record industry. So Apple capitalized on Napster. And Napster tried to come back with a paid service, sort of like iTunes, but at that point their name's so tarnished. But the technology lived on, and yes,
almost like MySpace, how it owned the market, and then Facebook just swallowed it, and it's still there, and but the technology rolls on. But I mean, it's just it burned out. It really burned out.
Yeah, but it's everything evolves. I mean, there's no guarantee that Bitcoin will even be the cryptocurrency that, is king in 2 years, 5 years. I mean, literally, there's thousands and thousands of coins. Like, new coins are developed every day. And in my mind, that's kind of a problem, because a lot of those coins are just copies and pastes of other coins, and there's a lot of people out there trying to just scam and make some quick money and turn it into Bitcoins. But there are some coins out there that are actually trying to push technology, trying to better the protocol, trying to actually make a better currency. So there's all kinds of flavors out there, and there's no guarantee Bitcoin wins. Just like there's no guarantee that obviously MySpace didn't win, Friendster didn't win. I think the best way to the better analogy for like Bitcoin is to look at email. I think Bitcoin is going to do to finances what email did to communications. So email changed the world when you think about it. I mean, email was something that had been around since like the 70s, right? It just wasn't accessible to the average user. It was a military thing, you know. But email, once come the like mid late 90s, everybody started getting an email address. It was the way to communicate. So when you think about like how much did that shut down the U.S. Postal Service? No, I mean, but email changed the face of the planet essentially with communications. And obviously a lot of technology is way evolved past email, but I still send emails every day. I think everybody that's listening probably sends emails every day. So I look at Bitcoin in the more the blockchain than Bitcoin itself, but I look at it as the email of currencies. So it's a whole new layer of technology. It brings out like the best and sometimes the worst of the economies and of trading and of currencies. But what it really kind of brings to the table is this underlying technology that lets anything become public ledger. So let me step back for a second with the blockchain. The blockchain's more than Bitcoin. Bitcoin is Bitcoin. It's a token essentially. The blockchain itself can be used for various things. There's a couple got married through the Bitcoin blockchain. That's actually happening.
What does that mean? They digitize themselves like in Tron?
No,
I'm totally kidding there.
Basically, use the blockchain as a public record to say that they are now officially married.
Like a wedding announcement through blockchain?
Like, no, they got married in front of a Bitcoin ATM and basically burned 0.1 Bitcoin and posted their vows to the blockchain, and then they're technically married. Obviously, not by any governing state, but the whole world sees that they made a binding agreement to be one another, to be a couple, to be to be a joint unity or whatever you want to call it.
They binded me with science.
I mean, Google it. It's a real thing.
The Bitcoin wedding. Huh.
Bitcoin wedding, and but that just demonstrates that the blockchain itself is far more advanced than just a currency. There's this concept of smart contracts, which is essentially, if I wanted to take a loan, I could take a loan from you through the blockchain, and if X, Y, and Z happens, that means I broke the agreements of my loan, and it automatically transfers the funds back to you.
Like a default, kind of like an escrow that you can set up on your own, and you don't need to.
Right. It's a binding contract that lets you essentially put little bits of code to give rules to it. So, let's if there could be a third party that's involved that acts as like a notary. It could be used as a notary service itself. There's just tons and tons of ideas out there, and a lot of these are actually being developed, and it's more than just a theory or a concept. A lot of these smart contracts are being worked on heavily. You can Google around for smart contracts. There's a ton of stuff going on there, and I think that's what essentially we're going to see in the future is the blockchain more than Bitcoin is going to be the underlying technology for a lot of things. It cuts out the middleman. If you default on your loan, I don't have to go check and I don't have to go hunt you down. It's automatically built in that if X, Y, and Z happens, you default your loan. If you want to mortgage your house, you could do that through the blockchain. There's all this kind of stuff is going to, the next couple of years, you're going to see a lot of this and hear a lot about this.
The blockchain.
The blockchain. Like I was saying, Bitcoin itself is it's the first, but it's just one variation of a blockchain.
And I'm looking here. I'm on Coinbase, Kevin. Looking at this, like you said, a good time to buy it would have been, I don't know, at 6 cents back in 2010. That'd have been cool, or maybe when it bounced all the way up to $15 in 2011, or November. Oh, let's see, December 21st, 2012, when the Mayans told us. I'm scrolling here. Oh, there we go, $13.41. The Mayans, if we had listened to the Mayans when they told us, buy it at $13.41, I think it said on one of those etched drawings of a feathered serpent coming down.
What's up for interpretation?
Yeah, up for interpretation. That's like my guy told me. Anyway, but yeah, you look at it at a couple of bucks, and maybe where we at, $40 in 2013, all the way up to $1,145 on November 29th of 2013.
Yeah.
And
then
look
at that graph, look how fast it went up, right? That's pretty insane. I mean, it's over the course of a few weeks. It went from like mid hundreds to 1,000, right? That's 10 times your gain if you were trading back then. And that definitely, that big bump caught a lot of people's attention. But like every market, everything has a bubble, right? As you see now, it's down to 350,
297 if you bought it off of Coinbase today.
But if you look at just this growth, and 1 year ago today, the price was 182, and if you're looking at that graph, right, we're only a few days or a week into that kind of jump from last year. So it's 182 today, but a few days before that, it was a lot lower. But the whole market cap for Bitcoin a year ago was $2.1 billion. Now that's a lot of money.
When you say market cap, you mean?
Basically the combined total of coins in circulation.
Coins in circulation.
There's a site called CoinMarketCap.com. That's a really good site for kind of getting an overall picture of all the cryptocurrencies out there. It rates it by the market cap, and you can see how Bitcoin is. The next one down is like only 100 and some million market cap. But if you look at today, the market cap is $4.8 billion. So the price is about double, although it's been going down recently. But the market cap has doubled. It's more than doubled. So, that's twice as much investments into Bitcoin in over a year.
And in a year, it went from 180 to 360. So it doubled as well.
Mm-hmm.
Avoid that spike in there where it looks like, oh, it's a fad, and then it's crashing now. You're like, no, look a year ago to now. That's doubled. There's different ways to look at the graph with non-connecting points to follow trends, and the trend is in an upward direction from back when it was 6 cents, like I pointed to back in 2010.
Yeah, for me, I got in late February, so it's it wasn't as good of an entry point as some people, but still, the price of Bitcoin, you'll hear everything from it's going to $100 to it's going to $2,000 by the end of the year. And, I'm not going to speculate on where it's going to go, but I think what we're going to see over the next year is it's going to find a sweet spot, and it's going to start to level out, because it does need stability. As a trader myself, I like the volatility when I get it right. I don't like it when I get it wrong.
That sounds about right. I think that sums up
for the
Wall Street.
average user to kind of feel safe, especially if you're buying things with it, right? Like, do you want to buy a pizza with something that might be $300 more in a month, or so people spending it, it's going to take some leveling off
before you hoard it enough to hopefully double and triple your money, and then cash out, and then keep your original investment, and then you play with some, and then maybe you spend some, or maybe you tip somebody on a Kickstarter, a 0.00038 percentage of a Bitcoin, and then that translates to $50 or something. Yeah, I get the feeling people are hoarding these. Probably like with all the fluctuation in the prices, the ups, the downs, all the coin fusion. The coin fusion. Sorry, I had to use that line. Anyway, no, I could imagine a lot of people tucking them under their mattresses and throwing them in a safe and just saying, I could give this to my grandkids if this turns into the thing. Man, our family's living good for a couple generations, and
yeah, exactly.
Are you really going to trade it for a pizza when it could skyrocket after that? But it reminds me also that I think we needed to come back to paper wallets. We never really did wrap that one up.
Sure. So the paper wallets essentially are a way of you to just print it out and keep it, right? Your computer gets destroyed, you have it. It's in a safety deposit box. It's tucked away in your fireproof safe. It's a really safe way, and what you find is even the big exchanges, right? It's a liability to keep all of your finances in this kind of online wallet, right? Because there's not an exchange out there that people are not trying to hack. It's a fact, right?
Oh yeah.
Exchanges, obviously have gotten hacked. Mt. Gox, I don't know if you've heard about that one. The exchange.
Yeah,
that
yeah,
lost, like,
I did a little bit.
300,000 bitcoins, just a little bit of money, couple dollars here.
Yeah, a few.
You know, and you would think, and this is why I love the resilience of Bitcoin, right? Because you would think something like at that level, that should have been game over for Bitcoin, right? All faith should have been lost. And don't get me wrong, the price suffered, it tanked, but it recovered really quick. And what that did, and again, that's another example like Silk Road, where I think something really, really bad, like almost unimaginably bad happened. But all that did was strengthen the resolve. There's more self-policing. People were, they wanted to make sure they knew where they were putting their money. They wanted to make sure that the exchanges they were trading on were trustworthy. And so it was kind of a wake-up call. It kind of, yeah, a lot of people lost money. People killed themselves. It was a really ugly situation. But, after it kind of all blew over, now it's just kind of a joke to most, people trading Bitcoin. But it really kind of, shook the core and made people go, okay, maybe a little bit of regulation isn't a bad thing. Maybe a little bit of tightening up and self-policing is something we need to do. And, maybe we need to verify that the exchanges we're trading on are ran by people and companies we trust. So, I mean, a big part of Bitcoin going mainstream is going to be trust. I think the two things are people trusting it and people trusting that their investment isn't going to get completely demolished a day or two later with the volatility. But I think we're getting there, and regulations are really, really starting to kick in. Today, I read a story that was the SEC is sending inquiries to hundreds of Bitcoin companies about unregistered securities. So essentially, they sent out this, it sounds like they're targeting 8 specific ones, but they're also doing a blanket kind of inquiry into all these companies. And what they're asking them for is everything. Every bit of information they have, every email, every phone log, every
Oh, that's
audio.
easy. That's fine. We learned from Lowest Learner. We just say that our hard drives crashed, and that's all we have to say about it. Like with the IRS scandal. Nothing to see here. Nope, our hard drives crashed. No, those other people you're working for, we want to see those. Those crashed too. Yeah, but it's stored on a server. Yeah, but it crashed. We don't have it. No, you have it. You destroyed it. It crashed. And that's it. And then there's no IRS story. So that's all we have to do with the FCC, right? Is just say it crashed. We don't have it. Dog ate my homework.
I saw somebody post on Twitter today. I wonder how many Bitcoin documents have been shredded today. It's really yeah. But this is gonna be a big deal over the next coming days and weeks. And it definitely, I think, like I said before, 2015 is gonna be the year of regulation. And I think that's partly good. They can't regulate your personal wallet and your personal spending. It's not like a bank, but what they can do is regulate the companies you're dealing with. And being a company that's working in that space myself, I'm not an exchange, and I don't offer assets to people, which is kind of the big deal about this is people are selling shares of their company, but not filing it under the SEC. So it turns into this kind of like weird, kind of shady territory between what's okay and what's not. But the SEC is going to make sure that everybody knows what's okay very soon.
All right, which group is it? SEC, FCC?
SEC is the kind of main
Securities and Exchange Commission, right?
But it's also involving the Department of Justice, the IRS. It's kind of a
those are the most corrupt organizations out there, my man.
It's a joint effort.
Lord Almighty, get Eric Holder and Lois Lerner's hands on this stuff. They're going to destroy it for sure. Let me ask you this, because the point isn't to go into politics here, and I apologize for that slightly, not really. But anyway, is this, how like some issues tend to, and I don't really believe there's much of a difference between Republicans and Democrats. We already established that earlier. But is this a Republican issue or a Democrat issue? Have the party lines been drawn over how they feel about Bitcoin, or are they all so corrupt they're all trying to block it out because that means that their coffers start to run dry? Has any of the politics started to play out on this yet?
I don't think politics on the kind of partisan level are really the issue. It's the financial sectors, right? And I mean, sure, there's some partisan stuff that goes on there about who gets appointed to what and who gets breaks on this, but really, the financial sector is just all about the money. They don't care about your party, right? I mean, you could say, Republicans, Democrats, income brackets, and things like that. But this is really just about getting a piece of the pie and having as much say as they can in regulating it. But the truth is, what's going to happen? All these companies are just going to move out of the U.S. They're going to move somewhere into a country where it's totally legit. And unless the U.S. completely bans Bitcoin and prevents, makes it illegal for me to use it or you to use it, it's not going to be an issue for the average user because they're not going to know. It's a website, right? It's a service. It doesn't matter if it's in the Ukraine or if it's in China or if it's in New York. So, they're going to start regulating it, but eventually, people either move or it's going to get to a point where the regulations are known. And what they're really going after is like I said, not the people. They're going after the companies and the exchanges, right? They're going after the people that have already taken a huge piece of the pie. And the companies are actually targeting is unknown right now. They apparently with this letter, they said that they're not allowed to inform anybody they got the letter. Although of course things leak. So if you search around the internet, you can find the whole document for at least one of them. But it's serious. They're requesting every single thing the company has, including the Post-it notes that might be attached to the documents, and so they're trying to really get their hands dirty and really dig into the crypto community and the crypto industry.
Well, we call the government Uncle Sam, and George Orwell called it Big Brother. And the quickest way to get someone interested in something is to ban it. Like 2 Live Crew. Oh, that's too hot for the airwaves. We must ban 2 Live Crew. Guess who's going to sell 1 million next week? 2 Live Crew. That's the best way to get publicity is to ban things. Like you said with Silk Road, no matter how bad that was, that got a lot of publicity. And if your mom and dad, the government want to come and say, oh no, you can't use Bitcoin. That's what no, that's only stuff that people like Gaddafi use, and then we kill him because he won't use his basket of currency, and he was trying to develop a gold dinar and get his away from all the banksters. Yeah, I digress. We don't kill those people. Yeah, we do. But anyway, if you want to try to ban Bitcoin, it's just going to make it worse. Like you said, and that's why I'm for legalization of a lot of substances like marijuana. Let's take an easy one. I've been a bartender since I turned 21. I've been bartending. And, if you have rum runners during Prohibition doesn't work. You have rum runners, you have huge violence, you have huge crime, you have all this illicit activity, people making bathtub gin, people getting sick and dying from disease because they didn't do it right. There's no regulation. It's literally the Wild West in the Midwest. And that's what happens when you say, all right, kids, you can't do any of that. Well, guess what? They're still going to do it. It's just going to be way worse, which is why the 7-Eleven concept, like you said, you could go in there, you could get a bag of chips, you could get a 40-ounce, or you could go around back and buy some crack. I would rather have things on the shelf to keep it out of the hands of the Mexican drug cartels and the CIA and all these black budgets just doing all this unscrupulous stuff as tens of thousands of bodies pile up on the northern Mexico border. Right, but I digress. The point
is, pay a tax than get shot.
Yeah, and I'd like to know that my Budweiser is going to taste like Budweiser and not have traces of formaldehyde in it.
Yeah, exactly.
Nobody needs that stuff. So, once again, file sharing was never banned because of Napster. Just the monetization mechanism had to be tweaked until it was accepted. You can't keep this genie in a bottle.
There's laws and regulations about file sharing, but that doesn't stop sites like the Pirate Bay, and it doesn't stop torrents, and it doesn't stop any of that. All it does is it makes it harder for the average person. You're not going to see it advertised on MSN or some the front of CNN, but it doesn't take much for a half intelligent person to go and find anything they want on the internet for free. The government can't shut it down as much as they want to. And the same thing goes for cryptocurrency. If they ban Bitcoin, like I said, there's thousands of coins out there, and they're all peer-to-peer networks, so they can't shut them down.
Wasn't there a funny one, Kanye coin?
Oh yeah, they had a Coinye coin.
Coinye.
Yeah, and that was mostly a joke, but it actually got some. It got the attention of Kanye's lawyers. They did a cease and desist, and they told him they weren't allowed to use his name. But there's all kinds of coins out there. There's Doggy Coin or Doge, depends on how you want to say it. If you want to if you want to sound like the internet culture, you say Doggy. If you want to be taken seriously, you say Doge. But there's tons of coins out there. But what's been happening lately is there's two kinds of groups of alternative coins, altcoins that I personally find interesting. There's commodity-based coins, which is trying to tie the price of their coin not to a dollar amount, not to a Bitcoin amount, but to an actual physical thing,
like silver, oil, timber, lumber, like raw materials.
A coin, cannabis coin, and their goal is to make one cannabis coin equivalent to the price of 1 gram of cannabis. So roughly $10 a coin, but it would be directly tied to the price of cannabis. There's another coin called Euro, which is directly tied to to 1 metric ton of fertilizer. So it's like these coins. I think there's one, a Petro coin, which is supposed to be tied to the price of oil. I haven't followed up on that one. I don't know if that's I don't know the details on Petro coin, but I do remember reading about it. But there's these coins out there where it's a whole different concept than you're tying it directly to a commodity. And I think there's a big future in that. It's not. It's a different concept, but again, like if they shut down Bitcoin, any of these other coins can take over. There's also a whole slew of coins out there that their entire purpose is to remain as anonymous as possible. There's coins like Darkcoin and Cloak and Stealth and Razor Coin, and they're built to be completely anonymous in theory. Some of them still have some ways to go to get there. Some of them run over the Tor network, which is an anonymous-based proxy service. So you can't track where IPs come from, and so there's a lot of work being done. So if the government regulates Bitcoin, well, then there's a whole subculture of coins, and with these open markets, I'm still going to be able to buy whatever I want from you, and you ship it to me, and the government's not involved in any way. And it doesn't matter if I'm using Bitcoin or if I'm using, a completely other alternative coin. It's the future. Cash is dead. I mean, who carries around cash much anyway? Everybody uses their credit card. And you look at like Apple Pay. Like Apple Pay, okay, Apple Pay is kind of the middle ground between banking and Bitcoin. But really, the blockchain and Bitcoin is a much superior architecture and technology. And one thing that it does that Apple Pay does not do is it runs on its own peer-to-peer network. Apple Pay still runs on all the same traditional networks that all your credit cards do. It does create you a one-time use kind of key, sort of like a Bitcoin, and but there's no public ledger. I can't see that you bought this at CVS actually CVS isn't using Apple Pay anymore. Oops. Nope. Yeah, CVS and Rite Aid decided not to use Apple Pay. They terminated their service. I'm not sure on all the details of that, but Apple Pay is a good step in the right direction. And again, I think it's Apple kind of taking their take on Bitcoin. But Bitcoin and the blockchain, it's a whole different world. And you shut down Bitcoin. Somehow you regulate it all to hell so that nobody can use it. You make it illegal. Like a couple countries have actually made it illegal.
Which countries?
Bangladesh, Bolivia, Ecuador, Iceland, and Kyrgyzstan.
All the big dogs.
Yeah. Well, the interesting part of this is out of all of these is Ecuador. So Ecuador banned Bitcoin.
Hold on. Before we get to Ecuador banning Bitcoin, didn't Iceland do everything different? They jailed the bankers and they gave the people a bailout. Didn't they do something totally different when the economy collapsed a few years ago?
Yeah, I'm not entirely up to speed on the Iceland economy.
Because I was surprised that Iceland showed up in there. Because I've seen the memes. I've read the partial stories on that. I guess I still need to track down the validity of this story. So let me let you get back to Ecuador banning it.
So Ecuador banned it because they're creating their own national cryptocurrency.
Oh, okay.
They want to. So right now, the Ecuador official currency is the U.S. dollar. So they want to create their own cryptocurrency that would go hand in hand with the U.S. dollar. But so they're the first country that's going to be running with a national currency based on it's not Bitcoin. It's their own flavor of Bitcoin. But that's a pretty huge deal. I mean, I wouldn't say Ecuador is the biggest country, but it's a step in the right direction. So I don't know if they took the right approach to ban the competition, but
That sounds very governmental.
but
Cronyism is at its finest.
Iceland had an attempt for somebody created a coin called Aurora coin, which the concept there was 50% of that coin was pre-mined and supposed to be delivered to the entire population of Iceland. I don't think it was as successful as it set out to be, but there's a lot of attempts to have kind of these country coins. So there's all different things going on with the crypto community and the crypto industry that's beyond just Bitcoin. So,
Well, I'm sorry. I just want to say, because you brought this up earlier with Tor and with Edward Snowden. I wanted to throw this in there before I forgot. One of the things that you were talking about, that people don't carry cash anymore, they carry credit cards and this and that, and the government can't control this. You see what's going on. What Edward Snowden told us, the data that's being sucked up on you, your text messages, your photos, your all of your metadata. If you believe all they're taking is metadata, I got a mining facility in Utah I'll sell you for cheap, just a couple of Bitcoins, you clown. They're sucking everything up to be used against you at a later point, or to blackmail you on, and this and that, whatever.
They're sucking it up. It doesn't matter who you are. They're sucking it up and storing it,
yes,
so they can search on it later if they need to. It's not even a personal thing at this point, right? It's just blanket. It's just data store. Keep everything, and then we have everything whenever we need to use it. So
yeah, and it's exactly why we have our Fourth Amendment, and it was one of the reasons why the colonists were really getting pissed off in the 1760s, the 1770s, because they were getting stopped and saying, all right, let me see your buggy. Well, for what? Well, I want to see. Maybe I suspect something's in there. Well, based on what? You have no evidence. Here, I'm going to write myself a warrant. Now I have the ability to do it. A writ of execution. Oh, you're going to write your own warrants. Huh, clever. It was very important that people don't suck up every piece of information and then maybe attack you based on, oh, look what I found. I found this in your luggage, in your buggy. I found this in your root cellar. Well, you had no business being in there, and I wasn't causing a problem to you, so you can't be doing that. And with credit cards, everything you buy on a credit card is tracked. If you go and get ice cream and potato chips and cigarettes and some Jack Daniels, you're probably not living right, but you might also be in college. But all that stuff is getting linked up with your personal credit card, and that's going to your insurance company. Everybody's spying on all your data, and the only way they have all that is if you're putting everything on a credit card. So, when it comes to investments, yes, some people say gold and silver, some say stock market, some say mutual funds, some say bonds, some say cryptocurrency. Alt currency, and it's kind of diversification tends to balance things out to avoid the super high highs and the super low lows.
Mm-hmm.
And that was one of the things you were talking about was trying to achieve that balance where it's just not so up and down. But I guess on a security level, is that mainly why the governments are making some of their moves, because they want the inside track to really snoop all the data of who's who and what's going where and how they can get their cut of it? Is it really just come down to money or control?
I think it comes down to both. I think it comes it definitely control. They definitely want to be able to know as much as they can about everybody, like you said, right? So having these anonymous or pseudo-anonymous transactions makes it a little more difficult for the NSA or any government organization to kind of track you. Doesn't make it impossible. They have. Think about the things we know about that's been released, and think about the things that we don't know about. So, I'm not going to live in fear that they know everything about me, because I know they know everything about me. And I don't have any reason to personally fear. But then again, what if X, Y, and Z cross up because I did A, B, and C, even though I have no malicious intent? And
it's just dangerous, and that's why a lot of people this power doesn't belong in people's hands. It needs to be, and it's why with the Constitution, the Bill of Rights, it wasn't meant, what is my government gonna give me? What are you gonna give me? It's not about getting stuff. It's about preventing the government from doing stuff to you.
Right.
You know, it was a charter of negative liberty saying we can't do this. We can't, regulate your speech. You have freedom of the press, freedom of speech, freedom of religion. And if any of those things fail, your Second Amendment guarantees that you can kind of course correct if you absolutely have to as a last option. And as a charter of negative liberties, it's just a weird age in the computer age where everything seems public and everything seems trackable and traceable and just creepy. Doesn't Bitcoin offer a pretty decent level of privacy? Just people that don't want to be into the system. They just want another way.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just saying that for the people that don't want to be in the system, they just want another way. This digital currency, altcoin, these can provide some of that, or it's quickly being snapped up and all the regulatory bureaus are going to switch this real fast.
I mean, it's absolutely, more anonymous than a credit card transaction. There's hands down for sure. Bitcoin itself, there's definitely been a lot of money laundering through it, and but if you want so there's ways for them to put, two and two together to follow the chain, but it's that they really have to try for that right now. When it comes to the average user just making a transaction, you're pretty secure. You don't necessarily know what that transaction was for, which is a big part of it, right? Because I go to the store and I use my credit card for this, everything I bought. Everything I bought, the price it was, and the exact time I bought it. With Bitcoin, you would have to know the IP of the wallet I was on and what their services is. But right, I just make a transaction. So unless you're also tapping into that site, and you can match my transaction ID with the transaction receipt from that site, the information's detached. So it does add a layer of kind of anonymous in a safety net in a sense. But that's not to say that it's impossible for a government agency to figure it all out. That's what some of these anonymous coins are really out to do, is to make it really difficult and impossible so that you can have complete anonymity and just really be, trade and buy things in complete confidence that nobody's going to ever know it's you unless you're publicly posting about it.
Yeah, and just because you don't want some creep in a trench coat in your bushes by your front window leering in at you and your family, that doesn't mean you're trying to commit illegal acts. It's that you just want a creep to get away from spying on you. But obviously government turns it around and says, if you got nothing to hide, you got nothing to worry about if you got nothing to hide. And I'm like, buddy, you're way overstepping your bounds. You need to be impeached. Like your Fourth Amendment, you can't do what you think you're allowed to do. I think you all need to go to jail, turn the Utah Data Collection Center to a big maximum security prison for all I care.
Yeah, it's amazing the way that they can get away with it. I mean, it really is. But, and again, just like with digital currency, it's the Wild West with technology in general still. The internet is definitely a lot more regulated, a lot more stable, a lot more secure. But with the free information and data, anybody tap into this, and it just, just as much as I don't want the government spying on me, I don't want somebody that might know how much money I have to find interest in me and try to, I don't want a hacker to try to get into my stuff.
Yeah,
and,
you don't want any of that stuff. You don't want to post a picture on Facebook when you're out of the country. Hey, my house is wide open.
Yeah.
It's like, well, you don't want to make it easy for some creep to do something stupid.
The combination of my safe is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Exactly. Mine includes a 6. No, but it is a brave new world, and we're all trying to figure it out together. And that's why I'm so interested in this topic of cryptocurrency, bitcoins, and whatnot. So what I want to do now, Kevin, I want to kind of make a hard pivot and go in this direction. I want to take like these last few minutes here and really break down your site. And what I'll do is I'll even do a station reset. So if you wanted to post the full version of this show on your site and then maybe cut to this point, you could also load this one in where you're just going to talk about your site, this AltCoinGraphs.com, and we can go from there. So with a 3, 2, 1, I'm going to do this. We're talking live with Kevin Ostrowski, founder and CEO of AltCoinGraphs.com. Kevin, I want you to walk us through what you have going on here at AltCoinGraphs.com.
Absolutely. So, AltCoinGraphs is the world's most advanced trading platform for cryptocurrencies. It gives traders the ability to easily analyze, trade, and automate Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies across a wide variety of the most popular exchanges. We provide traders with the tools, the graphs, and portfolio monitoring they need to quickly and easily make the best trades possible, all in one clean and simple to use interface. We're not an exchange, but we play an important role between you and the top exchanges so that you can trade and automate all of your stuff from one centralized interface and not have to worry about logging into each various exchange to check your balance. We summarize all of your balances. We display them to you in Bitcoin and in US dollar and kind of give you an overall snapshot of your portfolio. We track your overall value over time so you can see your trading performance. We even will display, and this is one of the most unique features that I personally have, I love it, is most exchanges or even some of the other kind of middleware that's similar to what we do, you can trade, but what you never get is a visual representation of what you're trading. So we'll actually display your buys and your sells on the graph itself that you're looking at. So you get a really quick snapshot of how your trading performance is going for each market. And taking a step back for people that might not know about trading and about cryptocurrency, we're really dedicated and meant right now for the advanced trader, for people that know what Bitcoin is, have accounts on the exchanges. But we're currently in beta. But once we come out of beta, there's gonna be a lot of help and documentation to kind of walk a first-time Bitcoin user all the way through the process of getting your Bitcoin to making your first trade. So one of my goals is to make sure that the interface and everything about it is easy to use for the novice trader, but also incredibly powerful for the big kind of whales and the big players in the game to be able to do everything they need to in one spot. So that sums up what we are.
Yeah, and something else that you're doing over here at AltCoinGraphs.com is that I believe, I think I have this right, you're still encouraging people to jump in and join the beta phase. Are you still in that?
We are. Beta won't be around for too much longer, but as of right now, the beta is still open, and I'm essentially approving everybody. It's an invite system. So if you go to AltCoinGraphs.com, right on the front page, you'll see some YouTube videos. You can kind of watch those. It'll give you a good overview of what we are. But then there's a link right there that'll take you to the beta sign up, and from there, you sign up. I'll get a notification that somebody's queued up. I'll go approve you. You'll get an email that kind of explains the current state in a lot more detail than I'm giving now, and you can really just jump in. And I'm really looking for active traders that want to give me feedback. So part of this beta phase is not just me testing the stuff that I said everybody should want, but a lot of the features that I've incorporated have come directly out of other people's suggestions or ideas or their personal frustrations with trading in other places. So, like we have a feature that I don't know, I haven't seen anywhere else it exists, but if you're familiar with trading with stocks or cryptocurrencies, there's the concept of you place your order in the order book. So you have the buy book and the sell book, essentially. But what happens a lot is you place your order and then somebody outbids you, and then you'll have an order in front of you. So it's as easy on AltCoinGraphs you just drag your bid up, and you literally drag and drop it to the new spot in the order book you want to, and it'll update it for you, and you'll have your new sale in place. That kind of sums up.
So at this phase, then, what are you mainly looking for? Are you looking mainly for beta people? You're kind of saying that's about to wrap up. Are you looking for investors? Are you looking, like you said, active traders? Where does the next step of this go, Kevin?
So right now, like I said, we're in the beta phase. So I've been looking for traders to kind of help flesh out the system and get things ready for the actual push for moving this into production. We will be a paid service, so traders will sign up and we'll offer a few different packages. We'll have a free package, which right now, if you go to the main AltCoinGraphs.com site, you can analyze it. You can look at graphs, and you can kind of do some technical analysis of the markets. The second package we'll be offering is for kind of the intermediate trader, so they be able to go and manually trade all of their assets, and the unlimited trading, but that there will be a fee associated with that. And then we'll have a third level, which is really geared towards the hardcore trader, and that provides access to our complete automation system. So we've been flushing out what those entail and those feature sets, but the next step is we're going to start moving out of beta. Already moved partially out of beta last week. I moved over the kind of non-logged in features from the beta to the main site. So right now, if you go to the main site, you'll see that that's kind of the base of the beta is what's up there now. So we're half there. But I am currently looking and talking to investors. The idea is to get some capital so that I can expand the data center and kind of pay for some development costs before we move into full beta. Because the last thing I want to do is, I'm not holding people's money, and we're not an exchange and we're not a wallet, but we're still people are still making trades with us. So I want to ensure that the hardware is stable enough. So that's one of the big things that's preventing me from moving fully out of beta. But so looking for investors and looking for active traders that want to be part of it and are really interested in giving feedback. Those are kind of the two big things right now.
Okay, so then people that are interested, they do what? They shoot you an email, they go to the site AltCoinGraphs.com, and then whether they're interested in trading.
If you're interested, you can just go to the site and sign up to the beta form. There's not much to it. You literally just put in your email address, and then I'll approve you. You'll get another email back that has your invite code. You click a link in it. You fill out a couple small things. You're in.
So
any potential investors out there, feel free to email me at kevin@altcoingraphs.com. I'd love to hear from you. I have a ton of documents and whatnot. What I'm talking about is really the tip of the iceberg as far as the big plans of where I want to go.
And that's exactly what that was the final question. We're reading each other's minds here. That's exactly where I was going. Let's put on your prognostication glasses. Look in your crystal ball a little bit here. Where do you see yourself coming up in a couple of years? Where do you see AltCoinGraphs? What is the purpose to the general public? Where do you see this growing into?
I see it as the central source for all of your trading. Because one thing with the cryptocurrency industry is you never know which exchange is currently going to have the volume. Since I've gotten into crypto, there's been 3 exchanges that, when it comes to the altcoins itself, that have been the major players. And they keep changing. And one of them is now, got bought out by another company called Moolah, and it got turned into a complete scam and is now completely gone. So what my goal is to provide is a place where no matter what the climate of crypto, no matter what exchange is at the top, you're always going to be able to go. You're always going to be able to link up to that exchange and trade with the exact same interface, with the exact same tools, and with the exact same reliability across all the different exchanges. And it's not limited to just cryptocurrencies. There's a few exchanges that we support that you could actually trade, Euro USD, Euro and or USD and Russian rubles. So there's actual foreign exchanges that you can trade within AltCoinGraphs as well. And one of the big things that'll be coming up soon is making a big press for some of the bigger Bitcoin exchanges. We've been geared a lot towards the altcoin markets, but some of the really big, like right now, the biggest exchange in the whole world is called OKCoin, and that's a majority of the Bitcoin volume goes through there. So we'll be putting in some amazing support for the top tier Bitcoin exchanges as well. So that's going to be huge. That's a whole new level and a whole new market of tools, and I'm really excited to get more information on that out to you guys. But that's all I'll say for now.
Yeah, no, and I look forward to this because this topic is going to be, it's ever evolving, the technology. So we want to keep bringing you back in to kind of go over the latest, SEC, FEC, CBS, NBC, whatever letters we want to talk about. Talk about the trends in the industry. We want to kind of keep tabs with what you're up to and just really try to think of another way to exchange goods and services. So one last time in 20 seconds, Kevin, give us your outro, where they can stay connected with you on Twitter, on your homepage, etc.
Absolutely. First of all, thanks for having me on the show.
Sure
It's
thing.
been a pleasure. And anybody who's interested, be sure to check out the website at AltCoinGraphs.com. If you want to follow me on Twitter, it's at AltCoinGraphs. And if you want to yell at me, tell me I said something wrong, have any interest in just chatting, or have interest in investing, email me at kevin@altcoingraphs.com, and I will take your flames and I will take your serious questions and I will get back to you.
Excellent. Well, Kevin, thank you very much for your time. We will do this again soon. And for everybody waiting on hold, we'll be right back. We're doing an episode of the Unhappy Hour coming up in just a moment. My name's Brian. We'll be right back.